Welcome. We're looking at chapter 2. We'll do this on Friday and Monday. This will be lesson 3 and 4. So we take two class days per chapter. What we're looking at today is maybe the most challenging thing you'll ever have to learn in Greek. And this is the case system. Now, if you've had Latin or you've had German, the case system is exactly the same for both those languages, but it's not what English does, so it'll be a little different if you haven't been exposed to this. What is the case system? Well, the case system is where you put nouns in what are called cases, and the nominative case determines the subject of the sentence. Now, in English, the subject of the sentence is determined by word order. So you put a word first in the sentence and it becomes the subject. So God created the heavens and the earth. You put God first, and if you put the heavens first, the heavens created God, well, then heavens would become the subject of the sentence. So in English, word order is what determines usually grammatical function. That's not the case in Greek. It's not the case in German. It's not the case in Latin. Rather, you're going to add little things to the end of a word, and it will make it a nominative or another case. So the nominative has two uses. It's the subject of the sentence. God created heavens and the earth, so God is the subject there. It's also the case of what's called a predicate nominative. And the predicate nominative is when you have a version of is or was or something like that. It's a grammatical equal sign. So the word is the subject, and then you have this grammatical equal sign. And the word was God. Both those words would be in the nominative case in Greek. The genitive case, so we've got nominative, genitive. The genitive, the first use of the genitive is the of version of the word. So if you wanted to say love of God in Greek, you would just put the word God in the genitive case, and it implies the word of. The second use of the genitive case is with object as the object of a preposition that implies separation. So if you talk about I went away from the house, then you would put the preposition from, and it would take the word house in the genitive case. Or if I wanted to say this is a gift from God, you would take the word preposition from, and then you would put God in the genitive case. So the primary use is the word of, and it's also used as object of preposition that implies separation. The dative is the indirect object. So if you, in the sentence, I live for God, an indirect object is the person to or for whom the action of the verb is done. And in Greek, you're not going to have a word to or for. You're just going to put the word God in the dative case. The accusative case is a direct object that receives the action of the verb. He praised God. God would be the direct object. You would put the word God in the accusative case. A fifth case is the vocative case, and it's a case of direct address. It isn't used as much as the other cases are used. So what we're going to have to do is just absolutely get down the fact that word order does not determine grammatical function in Greek. If you come to Greek and you try to make the first word the subject of the sentence, you're going to be mistaken. That's not how it works in Greek. You can put it anywhere in the sentence, but you have to put it in the nominative case. note well that the oblique cases, genitive, dative, accusative, it's usually genitive is motion away from, dative is rest, and accusative is motion toward. That's basically how it works in German. I can't remember if that's exactly how it works in Latin, but it's definitely how it works in Greek. So we're going to learn that. And the second thing we're going to learn over these two lessons, Friday and Monday, will be about the definite article. The definite article is the word "the" in Greek. And this is just amazing. There are 138,000 words in the Greek New Testament. 19,000, almost 20,000 of them belong to this chart. This is how you say the word "the" in Greek. If it's a masculine word, this is the word "the," of "the," to or for "the." "The" is the direct object. This is when the noun is plural, of them, to or for them, them. So what you're going to do when you decline a word, when you add things to the end of the word, based on what case it's in, you've got to put the right definite article. Exactly how German works, if you're familiar with that. So this chart is just one that you're going to have to memorize. But the good thing is, once you memorize this chart, you'll know 20,000, almost 20,000 of the words in the Greek New Testament. If you only could memorize one chart in the Greek language, this would be the one that's going to pay you back like nobody's business. So make sure you're able to say this, write it out. Ha, tu, to, ton, oi, tone, tois, tus, hey, taste, tay, tang, high tone, tis, toss, ta, tu, to, ta with an alpha tone, tois, ta. Now, the reason you want to memorize this is because it's going to give you a huge leg up in determining what the gender number in case of a word is. I'm going to try to explain best I can what that means later in the video, but this is going to just be a great friend, but you must memorize it. There's no way to cheat on this. There's no way to kind of do it. If you want to read Greek, if you want to get to the place where you can sit down and read 100 pages of Greek, you'll never be able to do it unless you memorize this chart. So just get it where you can just go down, sideways, backwards, pick out the forms, print out the blank quiz, do it over and over again. This will absolutely pay you back. Now, when we come to Greek as opposed to English, every word in the Greek language, every noun has a grammatical gender. This is true of Latin, it's true of German. It's not really true of English because we don't do it this way. But if we're going to learn Greek, we've got to get down, just get settled that these nouns, person, place, thing, or idea, they're going to have a gender. And so the word man is a masculine word. And so these case endings, so you can think of this as the root of your word, and then you put a case ending, has, hu, to, ton, as, u, o, on, e. You put that on the end, and it determines its grammatical function. Now, if you couple that, you can see that the definite article is very similar to the ending. So once you learn the definite articles, you can add these endings. It won't be any problem. Now, if you try to cut corners here, then when you come here, it's going to trip you up. It's going to trip you up really badly. So memorize the definite article, and then these are going to be easy. This is the word man. Okay, this is men, and it would be, when it's a subject, this would be of men, to or for men. Men is the object of the verb. Then we have the word beginning, which we're familiar with from John 1, NRK ein ha logos. RK is the word beginning. It's a feminine word. So there's no masculine form of beginning. It's always feminine in form. And these are the endings that tell you what case it's in. And if you wanted to talk about beginnings, plural, you would use this. And the same with the neuter word work. Work, of work, to or for work. Work is the definite direct object. A work, vocative, works, plural, of works, to or for works. So this is a just absolutely essential chart you need to memorize. And this is a chart you need to memorize. This is the main ending. Now, once you have that down, when you come to an adjective has to agree with the word it modifies in gender, number, and case. You already know all these endings because these endings are exactly these endings. So you have the word agathos, where we get the word Agatha Christie, the good woman, right? Agathos, just taking these endings and putting it on an adjective good. So if I ask you, write out the paradigm for the word good, you can write it out if you know these noun endings. So you can see that these three charts, they're all related. You memorize the first one really well, and then you just have to change it slightly to get this chart. And then once you have this chart, you already have this chart. So I can't emphasize enough that you need to memorize this chart. This is going to help you. Now, we're going to do this in class, so don't worry about doing this. And even in the test, Wednesday, tomorrow, we're going to study this more, so don't worry about that for now. Here's the link to the quiz. So we're going to do all that for Friday. When we come to Monday, the second day in the chapter will always be the vocabulary quiz. And so if you want to stop studying this point in the video, you're welcome to do that. When we come to this, this will be the material that we do on Monday. And we will always have a vocabulary test on the second day. So this is the word the in Greek. This is the pronoun he, she, or it in Greek. And notice those are just the standard endings. This is the word kai, and. This is the word on the other hand, or you can do and or but. Tis is who or what, question mark. This is the word I am. This is the word I was or it was. So whenever I give you indented words, you don't have to memorize those yet, but realize that these are all related. So Amy is I am. This is the word this man, this woman, this thing. This is the word or. This is the word in, as in NRK, in beginning. Menda is on the one hand, on the other hand. Tis T without the accent. Notice this has the accent on the first syllable. This doesn't. If it doesn't have the accent on the first syllable, then it's not the who or what, it's the other one, which is someone or anyone. Has, he, ha is the relative pronoun. Gar is the word for in the explanatory for. So he did very well, for he studied. This is the word not. This is the word say. When we come and we'll look at more examples of the case system. Remember, we're not going over this till Monday, but this is just going over what we went over in the first part of this video. Examples of the case system. So in the sentence, Jim paints the house, Jim is the subject. And in Greek, Jim would have to be in the nominative case. You would just put os on the end, and it would make it the nominative. In Greek, you could put the word Jim anywhere in the sentence. But as long as it has that ending, it's still going to be the nominative. It's still going to be the subject. Paints is the verb, and house is the direct object, what receives the action of the verb. Jim paints the house. Notice in English, if we flip the order around, the house paints Jim. Now the house is the subject and Jim is the direct object. Now that's a silly sentence, but it shows in English that word order is determinative. It's not the case in Greek. In Greek, it's the case endings that determine grammatical function. So there are 5 cases in Greek. Nominative, Mr. Smith is the president, so Mr. Smith would be in the nominative. Because is a grammatical equal sign. The word president is in the nominative, so this is the predicate nominative. And the little line you can think of as pointing back. Is a grammatical equal sign. The genitive is if you wanted to say Mr. Smith is president of the United States. Mr. Smith, subject, is, verb, president, predicate nominative, of the United States. In Greek would just be in the genitive case. So if you wanted to say love of God, instead of writing theos, you would write theou. And that by itself, without any word of, will mean of God. The dative case, Jim paints the house for his brother. For his brother is the indirect object. It shows to or for whom the action is done. In Greek, if you wanted to write for God, you would just put theo. And that by itself would mean for God. Notice that you do have the iota subscript there. And the accusative is the direct object, so Jim paints the house. You would put the house in the accusative. Now, in Greek, if you put it in the accusative, you can put it anywhere in the sentence. You can put it first, you can put it middle, you can put it last. It's still the direct object because the case ending determines grammatical function, not word order. So we're going to review that on Friday. And then we're going to do these cite sentences. And this is written by Rouse, a Greek boy at home. This is a public domain document. Rouse is a master teacher. He knows how to teach Greek, and just going to go over these sentences, not expecting you to get all of them, but I think you'll be able to get some. So ego, we get ego from it. This is the word I. Men is on the one hand, it always occurs when it's a post-positive, one word deeper than you'll translate it. I on the one hand I am, ego, I am. On the one hand, I am a paideon Hellenikon. Remember how we talked about this on ending as a diminutive? So we get like paideia from it, education, pais. Okay, this is the word little boy, little child. On the one hand, I am a Hellenikon. Can you hear the word Hellenic? I am a little Greek boy. And I live in the fields. So this is a verb. And whenever you have a verb, you can put things on the end of the verb and it will change it. I am, you are, he, she, or it is. This is the I version. And then we have the word live or house. I live, on the other hand, in the fields. On the one hand, I'm a little Greek boy. On the other hand, I live in the fields. For, that's our vocabulary word, in Taltha, there. And see, I've given you this word. For there, in the fields, notice you've got in fields, now you have in the fields. For there in the fields, a certain, that's our vocabulary word, a certain Georgos. Now, Georgos, this is where we get the word George from. And it comes from two Greek words, the word gay, and then the word ergos. Gay ergos, which means earth worker. For there in the fields is a certain Georgos, a certain farmer, who, that's our relative, that's a vocabulary, who Georges. Now remember how I said that this is how you say I dwell? This is how you say he, she, or it does, whatever the verb is. And notice the verb Georg is the same as this noun. So this is the noun version. This is the verb version. For there in the fields, a certain Georgos is a certain Georgos, who Georges. There's a certain farmer who farms. And he eke, so echo is I have. And so if echo is I have, eke is he, she, or it has. Who has a chorion. Now suppose you don't know what a chorion is. Don't fret over, oh my goodness, I need to look it up. Just keep reading. There in the fields is a certain farmer, Thrasylos. Notice that's capitalized, so that's a proper name, who farms, and he has a chorion. Now, what could chorion mean? What Rouse is wanting you to do is to make a very good guess. So, what would be a good guess? I'm a little Greek boy, and I live in the fields, and there in the fields, a certain farmer Thrasylos, who farms and has, so I could guess NFL team, 747 airplane. What might a farmer, an ancient farmer, have? Well, he has a chorion. So you ask, who am I and who is Thrasylos? And ultimately, what's a chorion? So this is what Rouse says, I will surely tell you. Lego, I am telling you, I'm surely telling you. For ego, Amy ego, I am technon to Throsalou. I am the child of Throsalos. And surely, to be sure, Throsalos has other children. And in Greek, you can put the word "the" with the proper name. You often do. For surely, to be sure, the Throsalos has other children. Now, notice this is the subject, but it doesn't appear till way late in the sentence. Well, it isn't where it appears. Does it have the nominative ending? And it does. Techna is neuter, so this is your neuter plural accusative. And the word other agrees with children, has other children. You see, other is separate by this to be sure word and by the verb, but notice the ending is the same, and that's lets you know that these two words go together. For and, or if that won't work, you can do also, probably also here. For I also am his child, and I have an adelphos. Philadelphia means the city of brotherly love. Philos plus adelphos, brother. I have a brother, masculine, and I have a feminine version of brother. So what would you think that would mean? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Quiz 2 there in the link. Again, I encourage you to get in study groups. You know, I know this is a little overwhelming, but the more often you do it, the easier it's going to be. So this is study guide for chapter 2A and 2B, and it will be what we're testing on Friday and Monday. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in class, where we'll do 1B, and then we'll read John 1:1 to 5. So I'll see you then.